I won't lie, but since I am a night owl, I have come across many movies that I hit play on just because, only to end up watching them wide-eyed and wondering how they even got made. It has happened to me so many times, and that is how I stumbled onto the movies we are going to talk about today. Because in this wide world of King Kong, dinosaurs, sharks, and giant monsters, let's talk about movies with slithering creatures. After all, everyone deserves a little love, right? In this video, I am going to break down why these ultra-hidden snake movies are weird in their own special ways, and why I could not get them out of my head. So, if you have ever found joy in a movie that had no business being this fun, you are already in the right place, folks. 1. Jennifer. Well, Jennifer is described as a holy terror, and still, that doesn't prepare you for what is about to come. Very much like Carrie in its treatment, Jennifer was one of those late 70s horror films that went unnoticed, even though it had all the right ingredients. The story follows Jennifer Baylor, a shy, socially awkward teenager from a poor rural background who finds herself in an uncharted world when she joins an elite girls' school in California on scholarship. Poor girl, both literally and figuratively, is reminded time and again that she does not belong in the same crowd as the other girls at the school and is treated like a charity case. Back at home, she has her father Luke, who runs a pet store and tells Jennifer to embrace her true self. But Jennifer is hiding childhood trauma connected to her ability to control snakes. Years earlier, a preacher's son was killed by snakes she was handling, and that history still follows her. School goes from bad to worse for Jennifer when she is bullied by Sandra Tremaine, the queen bee of the school, who comes from money and considers being poor trashy. Jennifer is targeted by Sandra and a mean group of friends. They steal Jennifer's clothes while she is naked in the shower, take an unclothed picture of her and leave no chance to humiliate her. Sandra crosses all limits of monstrosity when she buys Jennifer's favourite kitten from the pet store, kills it and leaves it in Jennifer's locker. That is pure evil. Jennifer eventually snaps, and truth be told, it was long overdue. So, when Jennifer calls upon the snakes, they answer and soon people start dying. From there, what could have been a coming-of-age movie turns into a revenge horror story. Director Bryce Mack builds tension in the movie through mood and patience. There is nothing here that is going to make you jump out of your sofa. Nothing really shocks you in the obvious way. The scenes are controlled and linger long enough to make you uncomfortable. Not the usual uncomfortable, by the way. What I mean is that you want to keep your eyes peeled to the screen, but at the same time, you want to turn your head away. That kind of uncomfortable. The snakes add to the charm, or maybe I should say the feel. And those were very much real snakes, my friend. That adds a reality to the whole movie that makes you fear for the characters. While everything was done under professional supervision, at the end of the day, they were still real snakes. One sudden move on set, and maybe the movie would have ended a lot differently. This is not a feel-good revenge movie at all, so do not go in expecting that. The movie can make you bitter and a little mellow. It does not pretend that revenge miraculously fixes everything wrong. It has a genuine treatment of the revenge trope and was probably overlooked because of bad timing. The movie was released in an already crowded horror era and did not have the flashiest kills or jump scares. But if you are willing to sit down with it, it definitely creeps up on you. 2. Anaconda, Cursed Jungle. The wide open snake mouth on the poster of this movie was what lured me in. Anaconda, Cursed Jungle is a 2024 Chinese remake or reimagining connected to the Anaconda concept. The original film centered around a documentary crew, but here the focus shifts to a circus troupe. The troupe is offered what looks like an easy job at first. All they have to do is hop on a boat and head into a Southeast Asian rainforest. And right there, I knew things were not going to go well for them. Also, I have watched enough Anaconda movies to know that when someone says it is just a simple day job, there is probably a storm, a stranded boat, a monster snake, or all three waiting nearby. And that is exactly what happens. The passage turns dangerous, and the group gets stuck in the rainforest. Adding misery to an already worse situation, Mr. Anaconda decides to pay a visit. But the movie does not stop there. Nuh-uh. They have people, they have a giant snake, so why not add a cunning and ruthless poacher who treats the troupe like a bait for his hunt? The more the merrier, you see. I mean, where do you even go from there? Snakes in the jungle, a poacher on the trail, and no clear way out. Both choices sound terrible. The jungle adds an earthy and grim tone, and this is certainly not a glossy blockbuster. It is rough, muddy terrain with snakes of different sizes slithering around, and that makes the whole experience oddly fun because every wide shot reminds you that this is no place for humans. There are no Oscar-worthy performances in the film, but no one ruins it either. The actors are convincing enough in displaying terror and wariness to keep things grounded. When the Anaconda appears, the movie goes all in. The hissing, the movement through the trees, and the jungle setting are what really drove the movie home for me. 3. The Lair of the White Worm. The Lair of the White Worm is one of those movies I never recommend casually, because speaking honestly, it is an acquired taste, and it only gets stranger with every passing scene. If you go in thinking you are going to get a normal vampire movie, I'm sorry, there are no regular vampires here, but Lady Sylvia, with her snake-worshipping, predatory, seductive energy, more than makes up for it. Written, produced and directed by Ken Russell in 1988, the film was loosely based on Bram Stoker's 1911 novel of the same name, and let me just say that Russell gives you your money's worth here, because as the title suggests, there is a lair, there is a giant snake-like worm, and there are enough victims pulled into the madness to make you sit through it. So yes, if you ask me, the director delivered. The story begins when Angus Flint, a young archaeologist, and I have to say what a perfect archaeologist name that is, digs up a massive strange skull on a farm. The farm is owned by two sisters, Eve and Mary Trent, who run a bed and breakfast together after their father supposedly vanished near the area connected to the local legend. This leads us to myths about a giant worm, local legends, and people who will not stop talking about the said worm. Then we meet the ever-charming Hugh Grant as Lord James Dampton, the current lord of the area. Very calm, very prim and proper, he is the descendant of the legendary Dampton, who reportedly killed a dragon snake demon known as the Dampton Worm. Grant is a treat to watch, and for someone who has seen him in Notting Hill as the dreamy lover boy, the character of James may come across as a little strange. Still dreamy though, but strange. Soon, James teams up with Angus, and slowly both of them start to realise that the legend may never have died at all. Another character worth mentioning is Lady Sylvia Marsh, the woman I mentioned earlier, and you could say she's one of the strongest reasons you should watch the movie. She's a priestess who wants to free the trapped beast when she's not busy trapping men and offering human sacrifices. Amanda Donohoe plays Sylvia with a sexy charm, but you cannot put her in one single box. This beauty is slinky, witty and evil. She goes around the movie bringing men down to their knees, sometimes metaphorically, but mostly literally. The Lair of the White Worm is by no means a normal important film. It is not all that scary, and is not even technically polished in the traditional sense. But it is certainly fun, and everyone involved with it probably had fun making it, because it shows. The film has an abundance of comic gags, surreal imagery, heavy symbolism, and pure Ken Russell weirdness. Not once was I bored while watching it. This is certainly not a sophisticated film, but if you want to watch Hugh Grant fight snake cult chaos and not break a sweat, this is it. 4. Sss. Now, let's talk about Sss. And no, I am not making up that title, because wait till you hear its tagline. Don't say it, hiss it. Yep, that is the tagline, so you already know it is going to be bizarre. Directed by Bernard L. Kowalski, the story follows David Blake, a college student who takes up a job as a lab assistant to Dr. Carl Stoner, a herpetologist, which basically means a reptile expert. However, Stoner is not content with the usual reptile research. Very soon, he starts his own little experiment on poor David. He begins injecting him daily with a serum under the pretext that these injections will protect him from snakebite and build his immunity. Poor gullible David. The serum Stoner keeps injecting him with is actually part of his twisted research into transforming humans into snakes. David starts falling for Stoner's daughter, which makes Stoner's already strange business more complicated than it was. And while the film runs wild with its eccentric plot, the campus politics, the father-daughter dynamic, and the emotional turmoil, the movie could have passed for a love triumphs or drama if nobody had cobras nearby. But you really have to appreciate how the movie commits to the whole idea and takes itself seriously, even if you do not after seeing a man shedding his snake skin on screen. And the real snakes help a lot in that. The snakes bring a semblance of authenticity to the whole madness. So, when the posters said it was one of the most unusual horror films ever made, they were not kidding. 5. Curse 2: The Bite. The Curse and Curse 2: The Bite are not really connected in any meaningful story sense. Curse 2 was basically retitled and sold as part of a franchise, even though it works as its own unrelated snake mutation nightmare. But that should not dissuade you from watching it, because the movie pulls you in that way. If you're a lover of horror, trust me, you will be too busy watching the unhinged tale unfold to complain. The story follows Clark and his girlfriend Lisa, who are on their way through the desert. They are cautioned at a gas station not to take a shortcut through an abandoned nuclear test area. Now, if a normal person heard that from a local, he might just steer clear of the place, but Clark and Lisa do not. After all, we needed a movie. So, the duo does exactly that and gets a flat tire. As they are trying to fix it, hundreds of rattlesnakes appear. While protecting Lisa from the snakes, Clark gets bitten on the hand by a radioactive snake. In a moment of panic, Clark runs over many rattlesnakes as they try to get away. Later, when the couple stops for a break, Clark starts feeling different. He becomes rude, irritable, and clearly unwell. It is not long after that Lisa realizes he has been bitten by a rattlesnake. But this is no ordinary rattlesnake. It is radioactive, and soon Clark's hand begins transforming into a snake-like monster that will not miss a chance to bite anyone who gets in its way. Lisa's helped by the town's sheriff and Harry Morton, a travelling salesman who is also a doctor of sorts. And that phrase alone makes me nervous for all his patients. Anyway, Harry tries to treat the bite, but later realises he is using the wrong medication and only pushed Clark's mutation further. Really? Doctor of sorts. How did that happen? The movie is grimy and forces you to concentrate. The desert setting adds a feeling of isolation, with no safety and no one around. The special effects were done by Screaming Mad George, and my man truly lived up to his name. The mutation is gross, sticky, and certainly uncomfortable to watch. But that is the messy charm of handmade horror that most modern horror often loses under all the polish. Undoubtedly, the film is silly, but is never stupid. It has the confidence of a film that knows its idea is absurd, but also knows exactly what it wants to be. Clark and Lisa are a cute couple until the whole snake hand business, and the actors really do a good job. The movie takes its sweet time, but by the end of it, everything is slimy and gooey, and the final half hour will make you forget the slow start.
Get away from her!
6. King Cobra. King Cobra begins in a research lab where an experiment with snake venom goes horribly wrong. A giant, genetically engineered hybrid snake, combining traits of a king cobra and a rattlesnake, eventually escapes and begins terrorizing a small brewery town. The town is preparing for its annual beer festival, and since it depends on the festival for tourist money, the mayor wants to go ahead anyway. This only means that now the snake has a lot more ground to cover, and the town pays a hefty price for the same. The local sheriff and doctor then team up with snake expert Nick Hashimoto, played by Pat Morita, our very own Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid. Hashimoto is a snake expert who understands how dangerous the creature really is. And yes, watching Mr. Miyagi step into a killer snake movie is reason enough to give this one a shot. While the film does not make much sense in places, that is part of its charm. There are scenes where characters make decisions that will leave you staring at the screen and asking why. The plot twist can be guessed early, and if I'm being honest, the film does not offer anything you have not already seen in a creature feature, and yet it forces you to stay. But credit where credit is due, the giant snake effect is one of the strongest reasons to watch. The creature effects were handled by the Chiodo brothers, the team behind Critters and Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and their work is easily the film's biggest selling point. The creature looks far better than many cheap computer-made monsters from similar movies, so that is a plus. And if for nothing else, do watch it for Pat Morita. I had fun with it, flaws and all. Calamity of Snakes. Calamity of Snakes begins with a greedy real estate developer whose construction project is already behind schedule. To make things worse, the crew finds snakes on the site. Instead of doing what a normal person would do, like calling experts to safely remove them, the developer takes matters into his own hands. And we know the rich in these movies care for none. So, he orders the workers to kill the snakes to avoid further delay. The problem is that not every snake is killed. The surviving snakes, led by a massive snake, are now out for revenge, and it is not pretty. The plot is fairly flimsy to begin with, and many sequences last longer than they really need to. You can almost feel that the movie is doing it intentionally to fill the runtime, and that is not a very good sign for any movie. But what rubbed me the wrong way was the real animal cruelty shown on screen. The film is notorious for using genuine footage of snakes being harmed and killed, and that is impossible to ignore. While I have an acute repulsion toward everything slithering and crawling, that does not mean they deserve this kind of treatment for a film, and for a mediocre one at that. So, if animal cruelty bothers you, this one is absolutely not for you. Having said that, the film has its own reputation and lives up to it because of the conviction with which it commits to its chaos. While the film has its fair share of snake attacks, blood and revenge, it is far from polished horror. It also has moments of absurd comedy and politically incorrect gags, usually at the oddest moments. The paper-thin plot may irritate you a little, but if you have the stomach for gore and can handle the notorious real animal footage, give it a shot only for the sake of understanding its reputation. Rattlers. The trouble starts when a series of snakebite deaths leaves Sheriff Gates worried, so he brings in Dr. Tom Parkinson, a herpetologist, to study the gruesome attacks and find out the real reason why the local snakes have suddenly turned violent. In his investigation, Tom is helped by war photographer Anne Bradley. Together, Tom and Anne get down to business, but the victims keep piling up. A mechanic is attacked. A divorced housewife is killed in a bathtub by the reptiles. Soldiers on night patrol in the desert also fall victim to the attacks. Tom and Anne spend a good chunk of the film out in the desert, sometimes on foot, sometimes in a jeep, and even in a helicopter, just trying to find clues and piece everything together. Soon they learn about the deaths of soldiers at a nearby army base run by Colonel Stroud. This leads the duo to the camp where they learn that the snakes have been exposed to a nerve gas called CT3, and it is making the Rattlers dangerously aggressive. The experimental nerve gas was buried by the military in the desert, but the snakes were accidentally exposed to it, and now they are violent. In terms of violence, the film is not as graphic as some other movies from the genre. Instead, it builds more on suspense and the constant fear of what might be under your bed. However, it has its accidental comedy moments. When a medical officer is asked whether he is sure the death was caused by a venomous snake bite, he replies that he is pretty sure the victim did not die from the flu. But the finest nonsense moment comes after Tom and Anne survive a snake attack in their tents, because then Tom, for no rhyme or reason, takes Anne to Las Vegas for dinner and a night out. There are gas-mutated rattlesnakes in the desert, and Tom's obvious response is, "Vegas, baby!" The movie is filled with cliches, but it has enough oddball goofy charm to keep you hooked. The budget was tight, and it shows on screen, but it is still a solid watch for fans of 70s killer animal horror. Boa vs. Python. In Boa vs. Python, a rich thrill junkie imports a giant python for a private hunt near Philadelphia, because of course, a man with too much money and way too much confidence would do that. Naturally, the snake gets loose, the authorities panic, and their big logical plan is to release another giant snake. And let me tell you, this is not just another snake. It is a genetically enhanced scarlet boa named Betty. Yep, because what is worse than one giant snake on the loose? Probably two giant snakes. Duh. I mean, how does one even come up with this as the most sane solution? Releasing another snake to hunt the first snake. Pretty sure they thought, what could possibly go more wrong? Well, everything. From there, the movie rushes ahead. The FBI, scientists, hunters, and snake experts all get pulled into the mess, while Betty the boa and the escaped python eventually head toward the big monster fight that title promised. The movie knows we are here for giant reptiles, people making bad decisions, and characters still wondering why they are ever having the worst day of their lives. Is it good? That depends on your definition of good. Is it ridiculous enough to justify a late night watch? Absolutely. Night of the Cobra Woman. Set during World War II, Night of the Cobra Woman begins with two nurses searching for herbs and medicine when they find themselves near a cave marked with snake symbols. One nurse is sexually assaulted by a Japanese soldier, while the other nurse, Lena, is bitten by a snake inside the cave. The snake bite gives Lena an unnatural extended life, and she becomes a jungle priestess trapped in a half-snake state. To keep herself young and beautiful, she needs cobra venom and constant sexual energy. Now, years later, biology student Joanna comes to the jungle with her boyfriend Duff, who quickly falls under Lena's spell. Lena seduces him, and Joanna runs from the cave for her life. But after all, Duff is human and cannot keep up with Lena's demands forever. From that point on, the movie officially enters its most bonkers territory. Poor Lena, overwhelmed by what she has become, eventually turns into a cobra. Night of the Cobra Woman is most certainly not the most elegant creature feature you might come across. Nothing in the movie makes much sense. While the film does not compromise on nudity or sleaze, it definitely compromises on a script that makes sense. It is strange, exploitative, weird, and centered on a woman stuck between human and serpent, but for fans who like quirky bad movies, this might just interest you. This video was never meant to be about movies that are perfect or subtle in pulling the rug out from under your feet. When I began researching this list, I knew I would not come across any Nolan-esque movie that would make you ponder for days, or any festival-ready stuff everyone already talks about. This video exists solely for the exact mood when you want weird cinema that survives on unhinged ideas. So, if you love creature features that feel scrappy and proudly dumb, these movies earn a spot on your watch list. Grab snacks, lower your expectations, actually lower them a lot, and let the snakes do their thing. And you just might thank me later, or blame me later, and question my taste afterward. But I will stand by every pick. So, that is it from my side today. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.